Are you landing Fragment every game because you want to get into some quick fights, or are your random teammates kidnapping you against your will to go there? Well, good, because in this video, I'm going to cover 6 very important tips so that you guys can navigate and master Fragment East and West. We're going to cover things like zipline movement, places to land, strategies, and much more. If anyone is new here, just know my channel centers around helping you guys improve at Apex. Enough about that though, let's dive right into this Apex Legends Masterclass. Why is Fragment so popular, some of you may be wondering? And the truth is it has a few reasons, but the main ones are it's a city and it's in the center of the map. See, people love to fight here because it's a sure way to get into some quick battles, and all of the buildings provide some great layouts to fight in. The dropship is always going to reach the center of the map one way or another, so you can always bet on steady traffic landing here. But let's talk about tip number 1, landings. Probably everybody watching this has gone to Fragment and been quickly overwhelmed with the amount of teams that come with you. So how do you deal with this? And where are the best places to be going if you are headed to Fragment East or West? Well, the answer is it depends. You always want to try to land with no more than one team in the general 1 to 2 buildings that you're headed for. If you're going towards the streamer building, which is the 4-story building in East Frag, then be ready to take on at least a few teams. And if you go towards the 5-story double zipline building in West Frag, that's always going to have multiple teams too. So you want to weigh the risk and reward in those situations. Those 2 buildings are very popular. 1, because they're bigger, and 2, because they're going to spawn more loot. Now, I usually scout around and go for the outskirts if those 2 buildings look too hot, but as of late, the outskirts are getting to be really busy as well. See, the concept of landing edge in a place like Fragment is if things get too crazy in the middle, you're in the dead center, so you're probably surrounded by too many teams and it'll be impossible to escape. Now, you obviously can't control this as much as we'd like to think, so a good rule of thumb is just look around and try to make the smartest decision you can in terms of contesting a reasonable amount of people. Because with more people and less space, well, that limits your RNG of getting a weapon or 2. Tip number 2, ziplines. Wait, did you guys smash the like button yet? It's for the YouTube algorithm and it helps my video out tremendously, so go ahead and give that a little tap. Anyway, ziplines are a skill gap in Apex, and particularly in Fragment because there's so many of them. And I'm sure you've seen your favorite content creator use them before and wonder, how do I do that? Well, luckily for you, I'm going to show you. First, you need to understand that utilizing ziplines really centers around using movement and isolation to be evasive from your opponents. It's a great way to slice and dice a 3-on-1 into a 1-on-1 3 different times. The super jump is by far the best zipline mechanic that you will want to learn. This is possible on both mouse and keyboard and controller. Now, to super jump, you have to input 2 jumps right after you interact with the zipline. So for me on controller, it's X and then AA very quickly while turning 180. And if you're on mouse and key, you can bind jump to scroll wheel, whether up or down, and this is a little bit smoother than spamming spacebar twice. Super jumps let you zip up more than 1 floor at a time and quickly to avoid being shot, and you can super jump to angles on the floor you're heading towards without actually committing to going onto that floor. In this clip here, you'll see I peek the floor above me, but I don't commit on taking the floor quite yet. And this is the best of both worlds option here because you don't really know what you're going up against. For all you mouse and key players out there, feel free to throw in a tap strafe to be even more evasive. The one thing to watch out for on the ziplines is the zipline interaction cap. So you can only interact with the zipline 3 times before it's going to kick you off and make you hit the ground. Now, of course, if in between 1 and 3, you bump the ground, you touch the floor, something like that, then it's going to reset your counter. But otherwise, you need to keep in mind on the 4th interaction, you're not going to be able to use the zipline. You definitely don't want to get to the top of the zipline elevator just to find out you can't interact anymore and fall straight down to get 1 clipped. Ziplines can give you a massive advantage if you're looking to 1v2 or 1v3. Honestly, there's so much I could go on about ziplines, but a few things you can learn are super jumps, regular zipline jumps to go up 1 floor, and crouching on a zipline while looking down to avoid the falling stun mechanic that every legend suffers from besides Horizon, because that's her passive. Tip number 3, high ground. On the topic of playing ziplines in certain high-rise buildings, you should understand that high ground usually gives you the most leverage in these fights. See, if I'm in any number of these buildings, I'm always trying to control height because I know that enemies will have to close the gap to me. And usually in them doing so, I can get some pretty easy kills. But not if you guys start implementing all these tips, I guess. So maybe I should chill out on telling you everything. Well, anyways, it's always easier to drop from high ground to low ground than it is to come from low ground and try to take high ground. Of course, some legends have abilities to assist with this, like Horizon, Pathfinder, Octane, you know the deal. But these are mostly exceptions to the rule. See, if we look at the largest zipline building in Fragment, it has 5 floors. The person at the top of the building has the best advantage because they can look down on everyone inside, and they can assess if people are trying to come up to them. Trust me, it's a lot easier shooting down on someone than it is trying to shoot up at them. Now, Highground doesn't just apply to these zipline buildings, it applies to any building within Fragment. Taking roofs and holding staircases will give you the advantage of pacing how you want the engagement to go. Now be sure to cover all ways of attaining high ground because sound isn't the most trustworthy thing in Apex. As we know, if there are multiple people inside a 5-story building, it's tough to tell what floor they are exactly on, so this will outplay you at times. Tip number 4, third partying. This is your best friend here more so than anywhere else on the map. But you guys know the saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Wait, does that apply here? I don't know, but third partying is one of the best ways to stack up easy kills and damage very quickly. Believe me, some of my highest kill games are from landing here, taking on as many teams as I possibly can, and then quickly rotating to the nearest gunshots I hear. Doing this isn't possible without third partying. Being able to effectively come in at the correct time and clean up can give you a huge advantage. One thing that you ideally want to do is come in right after one team squad wipes the other. This is especially vital in Fragment because you will need to have the optimal amount of time to reset in order to deal with any third parties yourself. You best believe another team is coming to clean you up right after you finish fighting. A lot of people tend to interject in the middle of an engagement, which can inadvertently cause the two teams to just focus you. So one huge tip I can give you is use the kill feed to your advantage here. Hearing the shots and watching the kill feed will allow you to time when the engagement is actually over. You can use the gunshot sounds you hear and match them to the knocks you see in the kill feed. Keep in mind, third parties are going to happen to you just as much as you plan to do it to other teams. And this is where the zipline and high ground tip can help you buy time to reset for the next fight. Tip number 5, best legends. What are the best legends for a Fragment battle? Well, it really depends here because there's always going to be a time and a place where your favorite legend is super valuable. But the question you want to ask yourself is, what situations do I find myself in the most while I'm in Fragment? See, legends I love to play are Caustic, Pathfinder, and Wraith for Fragment fights. Look, each legend is going to have its pros and cons, especially in such a diverse POI such as Fragment. Characters like Caustic and Watson can lock down buildings, preventing others from getting inside, but they also have disadvantages when trying to push or take over another building. Characters like Wraith, Pathfinder, Ash, or Horizon, any movement character in general, are quite the opposite here. They have the pros of being able to outmaneuver the enemy, but lack being able to control or lock down a building. In general, the best character to play for Fragment is whoever you are most comfortable with. Yes, some legends favor the style of fighting in Fragment such as Caustic, Wraith, and Path, but if you don't know how to play them or you enjoy playing someone else, just go for it. Tip number 6, if it's too hot, go somewhere else. Listen guys, the RNG is just too much at times. Like, it often feels like the loot isn't enough for the amount of people that are dropping in Fragment these days. Maybe the loot was enough last season or the previous seasons, but with this season, it feels like Fragment is more popular than ever, and I just think that has to do with Stormpoint being bigger and not having a middle of the map spot like World's Edge and Olympus does. So some players who just spent 1 hour playing on Stormpoint get so antsy as soon as they get on World's Edge, they just want to drop into a fight because they haven't been able to do that to the extent they may have liked to on Stormpoint. So I do avoid Fragment at times, especially if I've died off drop multiple games in a row when I just felt like I didn't even get a gun, I didn't even have a chance. Places to go other than Fragment are Skyhook and Lava Siphon. Both are great POIs to fight in and do have a good amount of loot. If you guys haven't already, please go ahead and check out my second YouTube channel where I'm posting YouTube shorts and unedited cracked gameplay. The link is in the description. Also, if anyone is interested in Apex Legends coaching sessions, the Fiverr link below has got you covered. Thank you so much for watching this video. Here's a clip of me skateboarding. Peace.